I'm Rae Johnston. I'm a journalist at Gizmodo where I cover gaming, but you might have seen me on telly over the years or heard my voice on radio because I do those things too.
I'm Jiggsy. I've been in marketing and video games for the last 5 years, and I am a mental health advocate.
I'm playing Horizon Zero Dawn right now. It's really lovely to be able to get home from work on a bit of a stressful day and to just cocoon myself in bed and explore that world and that story. I'm really enjoying it.
I float between games. It depends whether I'm playing something by myself or with friends. Most recently with friends, I was reliving the glory days of GoldenEye in a source mod that's been worked on for the last decade. Other than that, I've just finished Ghost Recon Wildlands and Mass Effect Andromeda.
My favourite game is Journey.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Oh, now, see, I was going to say that, but now...
We can have the same favourite game.
I want to have something different.
We're allowed to have things in common. Yeah. My favourite game is Journey. I think at the time that I played it, it just affected me so much and it just stayed with me, and I think I've used it over the years as an example of a game when people are like, oh, video games are bad for you and violent and horrible, and I'm like, look at this beautiful masterpiece. Listen to this Grammy Award-winning music. Look at these beautiful landscapes. And also introducing people to Journey is incredible to watch. You know, that moment where it's not so much now, I don't think, but that moment where, you know, is someone else going to enter the game? Or how are they going to react to that? Are they going to realise that someone else is playing with them from possibly the other side of the world? Or are they going to think it's an NPC? Like, how is that going to go? So yeah, there's many elements to it, but Journey is my favourite game.
I'm going to go totally different track.
Go on.
My favourite game is 2005's Need for Speed Most Wanted.
Oh, wow.
It was the pinnacle of car culture at the time, with the BMW M3 GTR on the cover. It was the natural evolution from the Underground series that bordered into the daylight, with way more cops and way more street racing and some of the worst, best live action videos.
That's incredible.
I left TAFE in the middle of a finance class because I'd realised that was the day that Most Wanted came out. I made the guy who drove me to TAFE every day leave with me to go straight to EB and pick it up.
I married you. Of all the Need for Speeds though, not Underground.
Well, no, because Underground 2 was the pinnacle, and then Most Wanted just blew it out of the water. Didn't have drift though, that's everyone's biggest complaint. I think the big one for me is it's no big secret that I have intense love for the Mass Effect series. The story of someone who's thrown into this situation where no one really believes them, but there's something coming and something that they have to do because they know it's right, and that has resonated with me at any point in time where I'm struggling with, you know, a complex ethical decision or a moral decision or, you know, a personal life choice, is I have to remember that you know, once upon a time in the future, Commander Shepard faced these immeasurable odds and stood up for what was right and wasn't afraid to, you know, throw a few punches along the way.
Mine's sillier. That's very well thought out and lovely and wonderful, but I think, for me, I've been playing games my whole life, and I think that I didn't really realise how much they were helping with my depression until South Park: The Stick of Truth. And that was the moment where I think that was a time in my life where I was really recognising and understanding symptoms that I was experiencing. I was making a real concerted effort to, you know, eat well and be healthy and shower every day and all those things that are so difficult when you're suffering from depression. So to be able to see that contrast of how I was feeling and then how I was feeling when I sat down to play, and even thinking about it throughout the day, even if I was going through something that was difficult, and I'd be like, but when I get home, I'm just going to fire up Stick of Truth and I'm going to laugh, and it's going to be silly, and it's going to be inconsequential, and I'm going to explore this stupid world that's been created for me to explore.
It's kind of hard to take things seriously in the day-to-day life when you're just engrossed in something so ridiculous.
Right, and I think that you kind of get in a habit when you sit down to watch something that's a comedy of scrolling through your phone. You know, you're kind of more disengaged from it. Whereas playing a game that's funny and makes you laugh, you're in there. And I don't know, I loved it. I really did. I know that it's ridiculous, but I loved it.
Escapism is always an interesting one for me. I think, you know, my experiences of it is my escapism is weirdly into a more social sense. So when, you know, for example, I was really struggling with my anxiety and couldn't leave the house and couldn't interact with people, I really, probably because I had a lot more time on my hands, spent a lot more time playing games with a really close group of friends, and that was my social interaction, and that was so intensely good for my mental health that would put me in this state of raucous laughter to the point where you would tell me to shut up because you were trying to sleep. And those moments are some of the things that got me through some of the darkest times.
I think for me, yeah, it is escapism, but I feel like there's such a negative kind of feeling around the term escapism. For me, it's an escapism from the busyness that I feel like I need to maintain in order to push away the cyclical depressive thoughts. So if I feel like if I have time to just sit and be, that's when all those thoughts kind of creep in and take over, and I start spiraling, and it's actually bad for me. So for me to take a break, that's what gaming is for me. It's taking a break from everything. It's, you know, this one putting a controller in my hand and saying, just sit down and play for a bit, and giving myself that permission to take a break and to just disengage from being on 15 social media platforms at once, from checking my emails, from researching stories, from thinking about what I'm doing tomorrow, checking my calendar, checking my diary, all these things. I can shut all of that out for even half an hour and just immerse myself in this world and whatever story it's telling me.
And I think the beauty of games in that escapism kind of way is that, you know, I can sit there, you know, of a night time and throw a movie on and I, you know, just absorb it, and I might remember some details, but I couldn't tell you 99% of what happened if I'm just throwing it on to kill some time or to escape. But if I'm playing a game, even if that game's bad, I still remember exactly why it was bad.
Yeah.
And when it's good, I remember all the feelings it made me feel, and I remember the brilliance of the graphics, or the sound design, or the level design, and all of these things that come together in this beautiful amalgamation of every other art form. My experience with mental health came over a long period of years. I remember a plane trip and a whole bunch of kind of issues that came up there, and I developed these really, really self-destructive kind of coping mechanisms, to the point where before I would get on a flight, I would rush to the bathroom and throw up 4 or 5 times just to make sure that there was nothing in my system, because I had this overwhelming panic that something was going to happen once I got on the plane. And I was fine when I was on the plane, but it was just getting on the plane. And that came to a head at a PAX convention in Melbourne, when I was supposed to get up and do a panel with a bunch of people that I respected. And I sat down and had the most intense panic attack I'd had at that stage, and had to rush out, and I could not physically bring myself to walk back into the auditorium. And I had to run out of the entire convention because I couldn't be around people, I couldn't articulate words. I said to the PR manager at the time, I can't. That was all I could say. And I was hit with this massive sense that I'd just betrayed people I was really close to, that I'd failed the community that were there to see me talk about things, that I'd really kind of not been able to be human, to be real. And I kind of wrote a big breakdown of everything that I was going through at the time, and was overwhelmed with the amount of support and reassurances and people sharing their own stories with me. And that was kind of the moment that I realized that I needed help. It wasn't something that I could just manage on my own anymore and keep in these self-destructive cycles. And the hardest part with that was still kind of combating that fear that this is a weakness, that this is, you know, something that people are going to not understand, they're going to look down on you for, and being able to talk about it openly and have other people confide in me with their own experiences made me realize that, you know, there's this real importance of sharing these stories and telling people that they're not alone, and that other people have, are, and will go through these things. And having a support network to be able to build you up on that is the best thing that you can ever have. Mine came to a head after about 6 months after that, when I'd been seeing a psychologist, and I'd been, you know, self-medicating with alcohol and you know, closed breathing techniques and a whole lot of behavioral therapy, and it was a band-aid, and it wasn't addressing the fact that there was a chemical imbalance that was causing these things to happen. So I finally bit the bullet after not being able to leave the house, and kind of almost putting my really good job at risk, that I needed medication. And that was the point where everything started to get better, and I had more of a strength where I was able to help other people through my experiences.
My experiences with depression, it's something that I was aware, you know, my mum had suffered from, my nan had suffered from, my auntie had suffered from, you know, all these people in my family. I thought I had a reason to be sad, so I didn't think I had a problem. I've been in some pretty, you know, stressful and challenging circumstances in my life. And I think it wasn't until that I was in a place where I realized that literally everything in my life was wonderful. I had the best friends that I've ever had in my life. I had this wonderful man here as my partner. My son is a fantastic human. My job was great. Everything was going really well, and I was still sad. And I realized that that wasn't normal, and that's something that I could get help for. You know, it's not normal to curl yourself up in bed for 3 days straight crying because you secretly think everybody hates you and you can't even get out to have a shower. And it's okay to ask for help in regards to that. And one thing that really drove me to ask for that help was that he needed me. And he needed me at 100%. And I needed him to need me as well. And he wasn't putting any of his stresses and pressures on me. He was bottling it up and saving it for everywhere else, and wasn't turning to me for help because he didn't think I could deal with it. And I needed to be strong enough to convince him that I could very much deal with it and I can absolutely help. So yeah, Jigs getting help led to me getting help, and yeah, it's been vastly improved since.
Talk to someone. Please just talk to someone. Don't hide this thing that you're going through and try and look after it on your own. It's not a sign of weakness. It's, you know, if you'd fallen off your bike and broken your wrist, you wouldn't just ignore it and pretend like everything is okay.
I told you that one. I was like, if you had a broken leg, you would go to a doctor.
Yeah.
And you were like, yeah, okay, fine. And then you're like, Ray, if you had a broken leg, you'd go to a doctor, wouldn't you? And I'm like, stop using my words against me. I don't need help. Everything's okay.
But you heard that from someone first.
Of course, but it's okay. I think if I could give myself from 5 years ago advice, it would be that it's okay to help yourself, basically. You don't have to give all of you to everyone around you. keeping everyone around you happy isn't what's going to make you happy. You need to make yourself happy so that you're strong enough to help everyone else. I think a bit of self-care Rae from 5 years ago absolutely would have needed. Run Rae from 5 years ago a bath, give her a good book, light a candle, and tell her to take some time out for herself, and that, you know, recognize when you're having thoughts that aren't normal, and that seeking help for those and speaking to someone about them, they're not going to brush you away. They're not going to think that you're not worthy of getting help. I was thinking that because my depression wasn't on the level of Jiggsy's anxiety, that I didn't deserve to go get help for it, which is ridiculous, because once I did, it was like a fan was set up next to my head and like fog was just out of my brain, and I was able to function so much better, and I was able to help everyone. So yeah, Rae from 5 years ago, reach out for help. It's okay. Not only just personally, but in my role as a journalist, I'm often called on to speak about video games, and the tone that's always taken is that video games are bad for you, they're all based on violence, they're terrible for mental health, they'll make you mentally ill. And to have a resource out there that I can point to be able to say, look, you know, don't just take my word for it that video games are beautiful and helpful and therapeutic and beneficial and positive. Look at this research that has been done by an actual doctor that specializes in this stuff. Look at these people sharing their stories and the benefits that video games have had in their lives. To be able to have that there as a resource for both my work, but also for the people that will stumble upon it, the people that will be looking for something to help them in their own mental health struggles, and realize that, yeah, video games is an option and here's how. I think it's immensely valuable, and I'm really looking forward to seeing it come to fruition.
Something like this is incredibly important to me personally, because I wish that I had, you know, a network of people that were experienced with this, or a resource that I could go to that related to me specifically as someone who absolutely loves games and could find ways of using something that I love and that I enjoy doing, and that gives me a sense of a greater purpose and a feeling of accomplishment and happiness at the end of the day. If I was able to take something like that and use it to help myself, that's incredibly powerful. Anything that's out there and shows that, you know, we're all in this together. We're all really trying to help better ourselves and each other. We've had movies and books and paintings and everything explore the avenues of mental health, but there's really no better way of doing that than with video games. It's the most experiential form of media that's ever existed, and it's in a unique position where it's not bookended by what a game can and can't be. That's their tools and their educators and their experiences and their everything. Why can't we use them for good?